That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So that's kind of a religious interlude to explain at least my interpretation of how religion evolved. I would argue that evolution is an essential part of the Christian faith because Christianity evolved out of the Jewish religion, which evolved out of arguably the Egyptian religion, at least the monotheistic religion. There's of course lots of arguments over that, but nonetheless, when you have a prayer that seems to be identical to the prayer that Akhenaten apparently wrote himself, that's pretty interesting. I remember growing up and visiting the university. Now, see here as it moves in. So that's in the museum at the University of Pennsylvania, the Museum of Art and Archaeology, or Archaeology and Art, whatever, I forget. It's on 34th Street, right across from Franklin Field. So if you were like a football fan back then, that's where the Eagles actually played, and I played in the band, in Monsignor Bonner High School's band, in that field. So that was kind of neat. For the Eagles, I played clarinet. So that was my. But in any case, right across the street from that, on campus, is a big old museum where I made this video, and you could see that's Akhenaten. Notice he's a little bit misshapen. That's kind of famous. So they think he had some kind of a defect. In any case, they're not sure that his son Tutankhamun was actually his son. It might have been his younger brother. They're not sure that he could have children, but on the other hand, he apparently had like 7. So who the heck knows? And Tutankhamun replaced him when he died, and some argue that he was murdered because as Pharaoh, he initially, and this is 3,400 years ago, he was the 18th. In the 18th dynasty, he was the son of Amenhotep III, and so he was Amenhotep IV, and yet about 4 or 5 years into his reign, he decided that instead of worshiping all the gods that Egypt had, that the Pharaoh had to take care of, he was going to cut them all down to just one. And he decided that Aten, the sun, was the only god. And so he changed his name to Akhenaten, which means pleasing to the sun, something like that. I don't know how you really translate ancient Egyptian into modern English, but there you go. And as you can see, the metaphor, if you were here earlier when I was playing the opera from the Met, they had this icon of the hands coming down, touching. And this is ancient art. That's not a contemporary piece. That's an actual stone that somehow the University of Pennsylvania stole from Egypt. There it is, among other things, in the museum. They have lots of mummies too. I took these, and I know they're really crappy videos, and I moved really quickly, but my thinking was that you could always push pause if you wanted to look at it, and we were just there for the day. So I did that quickly. But in destroying or trying to destroy all the other religions, he pissed off all of the priesthood, that took care of all of those. It also screwed up the taxes and all the cities that depended on that. He built his own city, Amarna, which was dedicated to Aten, and that was going to be his capital. And within a few years of his death, they destroyed that town, and they banned him from their art as much as they could, and declared him like an outlaw, an evil, interruption of the chain. And Tutankhamun became the king, and you're probably familiar with King Tut. That's when they all started walking like this. All right, so the first monotheist, that's the argument. He was the first monotheist. And there's an interesting argument that Moses led the people out of Egypt. Moshe means to lead out. And there's, they usually say that the name Moshe was given to him because he was taken out of the river. Remember, his mom tried to save his life by putting him in a reed basket and floating it up the Nile River. And, that sounds absolutely ridiculous, actually. And it's funny because an earlier Sargon the Great was also saved by his mother by being put into a reed basket and floating away. So it's like the thing to do, actually. If you're going to be famous, mom has to put you in a reed basket and float you away so someone else raises you instead. I don't know. Sargon the Great, by the way, was also born in a cave in Bethlehem, which is kind of neat. And if you were going to be famous, you had to be born in that cave. So that's pretty exciting. At the time of Jesus, that cave was a tourist shop selling statues and things of Sargon the Great. So it wouldn't have been an empty place where the animals were being fed, in the manger, etc. In fact, the argument is that Jesus was born in Nazareth. That's where he was from. And so he wouldn't have and there's no record of the Romans wanting to tax everybody that particular year. They did tax people, but they didn't require everybody to travel all over the place to the town of their birth. So that story about the trip to Bethlehem and everything all sounds like it was made up in order to get Jesus in Bethlehem to be born in the cave. That was the famous cave where you had to be born. With the stars in the sky doing things. And I remember the funniest thing was the Magi, the wise men from Iran or Persia, right, saw the star in the east. So from Iran they went west. Remember the story? Are you familiar with the story? They followed the star in the east, but they actually went west to get to Israel. That's dumb. If you're a wise man, you don't go the opposite direction. The star says we're over here. Why is that the case? Well, the star was in the east if you were European. So that seems to be a made-up story as well. All part of that whole picture. And needless to say, the Monty Python do a heck of a job making fun of that whole thing. If you ever get to watch the movie The Life of Brian, anybody ever see it? Couple folks. And check the outtakes, because they thought that outtake was so bad that they didn't actually include it in the movie that was playing in the theaters. So who was Moses? Moses may have been the high priest for Akhenaten and led the followers of Akhenaten away when Akhenaten was murdered, and etc. That's one possibility. That, oddly enough, comes from Sigmund Freud, but the most updated version of it that I know is from so if you're interested in where that theory comes from, it's Moses the Egyptian. Moshe in Egyptian means to lead out. And Hebrew in Egyptian means slave. So I don't know if that's part of the whole picture. In any case, so the monotheists moved north to get away from the priesthood that's trying to wipe out the monotheistic religion that Akhenaten started. These are all just theories, so there are all kinds of hooks that fight over it. By the way, they do have more and more documents. They have the emails that Akhenaten sent to his various kings. You know, they're clay tablets with cuneiform writing on them, which they can read. And I was looking at some of them last night, and it's just absolutely crazy. All the different emails, or whatever you want to call them, that were being sent back and forth to him, from him, to all these different liege kings. One of them was really neat. It's from Megiddo, which was a kingdom at the time. Megiddo is there's a hill in Megiddo which is called a Harm, and so Harm Megiddo is the name of the place, and it's the place where, of course, we get Armageddon from, which is kind of neat. And that would come later. That would be when Josephus was defending the last of the rebelled Israelites from the Romans under Vespasian. Vespasian destroyed them. There might have also been an earthquake at about the same time. Some of the damage seems to have been not possibly caused by Romans, but instead by an earthquake. Kind of neat. It was at that point that Josephus, are you familiar with Josephus, anyone? No? Probably not. Let me do Josephus. Did I spell it right? Oh, so they use a PH. Okay. So Flavius Josephus. You could look him up. He ended up, he was the general in charge of the Israel forces at Megiddo that were losing, and they decided rather than surrender, they would all commit suicide. And so they drew straws, and he was the one with the last straw to make sure everybody was dead, and then kill himself. And when he made sure everyone else was dead, he decided, why the heck should I kill myself? So he went out and he paid homage to Vespasian and claimed he was the Messiah. You know how that works, right? And Vespasian liked that and needed a translator, by the way, and so took Josephus under his wing, actually ended up adopting him, which is why Josephus's last name is Flavius, which is Vespasian's name, and he became kind of a secretary to Vespasian, writing his own version of the defense of Appian, Appian was what the Latins called, or the Greeks rather called Israel, Appian. And so he's talking about the defense of the War of the Jews, was another book that he wrote for Vespasian, detailing Vespasian's successes and everything. And he was used at Jerusalem. He was used as a translator to call everyone in the city to surrender, but they didn't. And as a result, well, as you know, Rome destroyed Jerusalem, and then went on to find the rebels that were left at Masada. Right? By the way, if you go to Megiddo today, there's a McDonald's there. So you can actually go to Megiddo, and if you're actually